Hey friends, so today we're going to try something a little bit different. The first thing you're probably noticing if you've been around this channel before is that I'm talking. This is primarily a no talking ASMR channel. I like to keep it that way. There's only one other video where I can be heard speaking so far on the channel, and I'll probably keep it that way in the future, but today I was feeling really inspired to try something a little bit different. So we're gonna do a little summertime tarot reading. Full disclosure, I actually just filmed one right before this, but I got my head in the way of this camera. Every time I do videos at this particular setup, it's really hard for me to get a camera angle that I don't get my face in. And if there's one thing I really don't want on this channel, it's a face cam. So I'm not like that weird about being on camera, just not for this channel. I need some space where you're not gonna be judging me based on what I look like. So anyways, so that, and then the other major thing that's gonna be a little bit different about this video is that I usually film my ASMR videos about 5 o'clock in the morning, because I live in an apartment building in a major city, so it's usually pretty loud. But right now I'm filming this and it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so you're probably gonna hear some sounds of the summer outside, maybe some cars, maybe some ambulance, maybe some children, possibly some music. I don't have any control over everybody else, so hopefully it works out though, and maybe that's soothing in its own kind of way. So let's move on with it. If you can't tell by my sort of desk setup here, I do vibe a little bit with the sort of hippie or like new agey stuff. Not entirely. I feel like my own spirituality is very much a like works in progress. If that's not your thing, it's really not a big deal. You obviously don't have to watch, but tarot can also just be fun. I have some friends that aren't particularly into it, but sometimes we'll just do it for fun. And even if you are into it, I will say tarot should primarily be like entertainment, right? Even if you believe in it. Motorcycle, I didn't even mention, that's a possibility too. Even if you're like kind of into it, still remember that it's like a grain of salt type thing, right? Don't take anything too seriously. So let's choose a deck. And I'm going to choose the same one I chose for take one. I said in that first video that I'm always really partial, I think, to the standard kind of Rider tarot. I've like memorized those pictures the best, I think, but I'm going to be using notes offline to help me with these cards anyways, because I'm not that experienced with tarot. So like I said, I mostly do it for myself, so I always have references. So this deck, though, just in case you're curious, it's a Mermaid Tarot deck by Dame Darcy. I found, I think an Alice in Wonderland deck by Dame Darcy this one time in a shop here. And I really wanted it because I love Alice in Wonderland, but it was like $60. This deck was gifted to me by someone else, so I will always accept a tarot deck, but like I said, it's mostly like a fun little occasional thing for me, so not necessarily something that I want to spend $60 on myself. So first thing we're gonna do is just shuffle a little bit. Honestly, the primary reason why I wanted to try this video is not to do tarot on this channel, but because I've been trying to do different paper-related sounds. I really love the sound of cards. I do watch a lot of tarot on YouTube, and sometimes I realize it's not even for the tarot, it's just because I like to hear people play with cards. So set very similar to what I did last take. And even though my head got in it, so I'm not going to show it, I'm kind of bummed that it's not going to get shown, because I felt like once I got into the flow, it was like a pretty good reading. For some reason, this one is giving us, oh, okay, thank God. I was like, are we going to get all major arcana? Because that would be absolutely bizarre. Okay. So this was my plan. This first pile here is going to be about the past. And because this is a summer reading, specifically, we're going to be talking about sort of the summer's past, maybe lessons that you've learned in previous summers. And then this is going to be the summer present, where you are currently. And then this is going to be summer's future. So that could be the future of this current summer, or that could be summers in the future, sort of depending on whatever resonates most with you when we actually get into the reading. And if you're not in the Northern Hemisphere, then it's not the summer. So maybe this is your winter reading, or whatever you want it to be. Again, this is mostly for fun, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to use some assistance to do these cards, and let's get into it. Okay, so starting in the past, we're going to start with the Death card. Now, this is the Death card reversed. So when you get the Death card in reverse, it could be speaking to sort of a personal transformation, or like a sort of cleansing of yourself from the inside out. I'm trying to think of how to say this better. So when it's upright, it's about endings, change, transformation, blah, blah, blah. So when it's reversed, we're thinking of sort of the same thing, but maybe something that you're doing a little bit more yourself, and less like those things are happening to you, if that makes sense. Sort of like you're the one who's letting go. I think similarly, a lot of people think of Death as the worst card in the tarot, and then some people will say, no, it's the Tower. The Tower is actually my favorite card in the tarot, but I think Death and the Tower are feared because they're sort of the same thing. Not the same thing, but they're similar energies in that it's like the universe, God, whatever you believe in, kind of making the decision for you that when you won't move, we're going to move you. So, Death reversed, right? If Death upright is sort of this card of like letting go of what happened, like needing to do that, in reverse, it could mean that, you know, you're sort of on the verge of this change, but maybe you're reluctant to let something go, or you don't know how to make the change that you need. But it's really an opportunity for you to just jump in rather than resist it. I think something else that a lot of tarot readers, you'll hear them say, is that like resisting the Death card eventually can lead to a Tower situation, right? Like when you're holding on to something that's not meant for you, it's going to leave you one way or another, but you can be the one to take the leap, or it can happen to you in a Tower moment. So when we're talking about it in the past, it's something that's already happened, right? So maybe it was a situation that you were afraid to let go of. And maybe if we're talking about the past, think about some kind of past situation that like you were reluctant to let go of, but where are you now? Were you better for it? Like, did you learn a lesson from that, you know? So let's look at the other cards, because maybe that'll give us a little bit more clarity on what that's talking about. So then we have a Star, and it's also reversed. So when the Star is upright, it's typically thought to be about like faith and purpose and spirituality. So reversed, it's the opposite of that, right? Lack of faith, disconnection from sort of spirituality. So when we're looking at this card reversed, it can sort of mean that you've like lost sort of faith in the universe, again, in God, whatever you believe, that maybe even you used to fancy yourself a pretty hippy-dippy, as I like to say about myself, spiritual person, but over time you've sort of felt less connected to that. I've definitely been there before. Even doing things like this is just a way to try to pull myself back to that, right? So you could be feeling kind of overwhelmed by everything that's going on right now, which, like, honestly, fair enough. I know it's crazy where I'm at right now. I'm sure you're feeling it. I feel like there's this collective energy that the world is sort of out of pocket right now. Everything's sort of intense. You could just be having a really hard time with that, like being overwhelmed, questioning why you're being put through this. But oftentimes people will say that when you go through things like that, it's a test of faith, right? It's like a moment to sort of renew what you believe and say, like, yeah, this feels really crappy right now, but I'm going to get through this just like I got through everything else. So that's just something to keep in mind. But again, it's kind of interesting because if this is something that was in the past, maybe this is something you experienced before. Like the world is crazy now, but wasn't it always crazy? I mean, I would argue that it feels like it's gotten worse, but I feel like, there were plenty of times before this when people probably felt the same way, right? Like one of my grandmothers lived through the Great Depression. And when I tried to talk to her about it when she was in her 90s, she was like, oh, it wasn't that bad. I'm like, was it not that bad? Or is it just giving you, have you just had so much time to move on from it and felt like life was so abundant in reflection to the Great Depression that you're not thinking about all the things that were terrible about it? You chose to see a different outlook. So, in the past, maybe this was something that you went through before, some kind of test of faith that you feel like you've come through. Maybe you're going through something similar. We'll find out when we get towards that area. So maybe that's something to reflect on. And then the Sun in reverse, I already know this is going to be bad because this is supposed to be a good card. For some reason, I said this in the last take I took too. For some reason, this Mermaid Tarot deck, all of the cards want to come out reversed. I very rarely get uprights, and maybe it's the way I'm shuffling it, but I don't think so because I've used this deck with myself before and tried to flip them all the right way and tried to even do it without reversals, and they still come reversed. So let me cleanse this cursed deck. No, I'm kidding. We're going to get something good out of this reading. So the Sun, people love this card because upright, it's about positivity and success and fun and blah, blah, blah. So when we get it reversed, it's, again, feeling down. But it also could be, on the other hand, like not just feeling down or bad, but it could be feeling like overly optimistic. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you feel terrible, but it could mean that like you're being ridiculously optimistic. Like, I think there's like something to that thought that like everything in life is meant to be balanced. But typically when you get the Sun card reversed, it's sort of asking for you to call on your inner child. It speaks to that part of us, especially as adults who get kind of lost in what's happening in everyday life, that we just forget how to enjoy life as it is. And be grateful for the things that we have. Learning to let go of things that you can't control. And, it could be speaking to sort of struggling to see the bright side of things. And when we're talking about in the past, again, this could have been something that you went through before. And a lot of this kind of looks like, struggling to let go of things, struggling to sort of find a sense of self again and strength. We're going to move on to the present because I'm really interested to see where this is going. I love when the past is just like, yep, everything was terrible. So anyways, let's get into this. So first we got the Hermit reversed. When the Hermit is upright, I know this card pretty well because this is my signs, like, representative card. When this card is upright, it's speaking to sort of like soul searching, being alone, but not just being alone because you're like the hermit, but being alone because you're looking for that sort of inner guidance and trying to like reset with yourself. So this one came up reversed. And when you get it reversed, sorry, I'm like trying to stretch my legs. It's kind of speaking to like, it went from being a moment of trying to be soul searching to now we're just fully withdrawn. Now we're not being around people. Now we're being lonely. Now we're isolating ourselves. It's like, did you get what you were looking for in that moment where you were taking time out for yourself? And then why are you still there? You know? So if this is speaking to what's going on in the present, maybe, you know, it could be for anything. It could be like you had a tough time with a relationship recently, and so you kind of took some time to go inward. You know, you're not ready to put yourself out there. Or maybe you found yourself like without a job or not knowing how you feel about your current job, but feeling like kind of trapped. And so you took some time to just like focus on what you're doing there. But now it's like maybe no moves have been made, or maybe moves have been made, but you're still just kind of in that introspective sort of place. But now it's just led to isolation. Like you're not really moving forward from there. Right now I'm speaking words and I'm not sure what they mean. So tell me if any of that's making sense. Let's keep going, because sometimes when you kind of have like a collective thing going, it actually starts to make more sense. So then we also got the High Priestess in reverse. All these reversals. When the High Priestess is upright, we're talking about like, this is the divine feminine, although you can be male listening to this, it doesn't make a difference. It's really just speaking to that kind of like intuition and, you know, all of these very like kind of sort of inner spiritual knowing kind of feelings. So when you have the High Priestess reversed, it's like the disconnect from that, right? It's the disconnect from intuition. Again, is similar to the Hermit. It's like being withdrawn, but not withdrawn in a sense where you're going to pull something out of this withdrawal, but now you're just fully withdrawn. So when you get the High Priestess reverse, it's sort of calling on you to do what you were supposed to be doing in the first place when you're in that hermit position, which is kind of go inward and be still with yourself for a second to sort of find your sense of direction again. Remember that some part of you inherently already knows, you know? It's like that's what you need to tap into, the part of you that already knows. And I know that that's like so, well, sometimes it feels like I don't know, right? Like, but there is some part of you that knows what the move is, what to do. I said this in my first take, but I'll say it again here. Something that I've said about the tarot and that I've noticed, I said one time to my friends when we were just like doing tarot for fun, I was like, that's right. I don't read the tarot reads me. I don't think you should ever be searching for answers, really, because I think that most of us actually do intuitively know what to do. It's just a question of, are you listening to that and are you doing it? Because 9 times out of 10, when I've gotten a tarot reading or even just heard advice from somebody, when it was good, I knew it was good because I knew it's exactly what I need to hear, because some part of me had been telling myself that a million times, but I just wasn't listening to it, you know? And so then when you hear it from someone else, it's just confirmation that like, no, I knew what I was supposed to be doing. I was just ignoring it. So let's keep going. So then there's the Eight of Cups, again in reverse. So when the Eight of Cups is upright, it's in the Rider deck. It's this picture of like the guy who's like walking away from things over here, and it's kind of like symbolizing like escapism and abandonment and disappointment. So when the Eight of Cups comes up reversed, it's kind of talking about like indecision, walking away, or trying again. So that's like, it says all the things. So to explain that a little bit deeper, it's this question of like, do I stay in this situation or do I leave this situation, right? The question is this a situation that I can change in some kind of way? Or is this what it is and it's something that I just need to move on from? And it's interesting that this came up with the Hermit and the High Priestess, because especially that they're both in reverse, because both of these cards on some level are supposed to be cards of like checking in with yourself, like knowing your inner knowing. The High Priestess is more on like a spiritual level, and I always think of the Hermit as more like an intellectual level, but they're basically saying the same thing. It's like, have you checked in with yourself and found that inner knowing, right? Like we were just talking about, like I think most people really do know what's right. They just don't always follow through with it because it might be scary or hard or involve putting yourself out there in some kind of way you're not comfortable with for whatever reason. And the Eight of Cups is sort of asking you to check in with yourself to understand what's happening with the situation and whether or not it's something that you should keep trying with or that you should release. So when we're talking about a situation like that, it could be anything. I think earlier I was giving examples of like relationships, money. These are like common things that people deal with all the time. Like it could be a relationship that just isn't working and you keep asking yourself, is this fixable or is it something I need to let go of? Same thing with a job. Is this a job that like it's never going to change, or is it a job that maybe I could do something that would make it change? But when these cards here are in reverse, it's asking you, rather than just be withdrawn for the sake of being withdrawn, like when you're spending this time with yourself, it's not this time with yourself to isolate from other people. It's this time with yourself to really tap in and tune into yourself. And if you're not using it for that, then maybe it's better to seek counsel of other people. I don't know. Let's find out when we get into the future part of this reading. But right now, that's sort of what it's saying is happening in the present, which, just to sum it up, seems like a whole ton of introspection that is not going well. And I have been there. So my sympathy to anybody who's going through that right now. So let's go on to the future. And again, this could be the future as in like next week, next month, tomorrow, or this could be the future as in like several summers from now. Let's find out. So first we've got the King of Wands reversed. The King of Wands, when it's upright, is talking about a natural born leader, a visionary. When it's reversed, we're talking about impulsiveness, maybe even a little bit of like ruthlessness. It suggests that you're possibly in some kind of leadership position that you're not quite ready for. And this could be in a literal sense, like in a working sense, but it also could be in some kind of a personal sense. Like you could be biting off more you could chew. You can, what's that saying? Biting off more than you can chew. Yep, that's it. You could be biting off more than you can chew in some area of your life. You could be trying to step into this King of Wands energy and not quite having it all together, which again, if what was happening here in the present is that you're trying to do this intuitive soul searching and it's not working out, because what's actually happening is that you've just fully isolated yourself, that would make sense that you're trying to step into something and it's not fully there because you didn't finish checking in with yourself. You didn't fully tap into this step to be able to make this happen and be upright. So I think if we're talking about this sort of in a future position, just kind of be mindful as you're moving towards something that you're not forgetting about other people. You can make moves that help you without stomping all over everybody else, or even not stomping all over everybody else. Maybe it's not necessarily that malicious. Maybe it's just like forgetting that they exist. I know I will say, as somebody who's a hermit, is my signs card. one of my biggest challenges in life has been feeling like I need to go introspective and taking that time for myself, and then completely forgetting that like my friends and family members exist and are going through things, and sometimes they need me too, because I get so lost in that introspective world that I forget to come out of it and check on other people. So it could be that. Maybe it's not like a totally malicious thing. Maybe it's just a reminder that sometimes, you know, you want to remember while you're taking care of you to also check in with people who you care about, because at the end of the day, we all need each other sometimes. And then you got the Page of Pentacles in reverse. Well, we do. Collective situation we've got here going. And in the upright, Page of Pentacles talks about like manifestation and sort of developing your skills for further opportunities financially. Primarily, a lot of Pentacle stuff is financial, and that's the coins. So when you get it reversed, this could be talking about like procrastination, you know, not progressing forward. But to take a more positive spin on it, it could be just asking you to sort of take some time to, I'm trying to think of how to word this. Take some time to like evaluate again what you were doing in the first place, right? Like say you're trying to start, I'm trying to think of an example for this, because with any of this stuff, it could be in like any area of your life. But like let's say, for example, that you're trying to start a new business or a hobby that hopefully is going to make you money someday or something like that. It could be saying that you're not ready to move forward with it. Maybe you're brainstorming and you want to keep it a secret, or you're scared that like you don't have the skills or resources, so you keep procrastinating, like you keep stopping, because you really want to move forward when you feel totally confident. But the reverse Page of Pentacles kind of speaks to that like thing when you just keep putting something off over and over again. And now I feel like the reason I'm struggling so much with this card is because I'm like downloading a very specific situation of my own personal life that this is like really smacking me in the face with. Like, why do you keep pushing that off? Stop doing that. I think though ultimately it's kind of inviting you to take a look at your past again, look at your past mistakes, ask yourself like, why are we putting this off? Is there a legitimate reason for it? Is there something that you need to be learning from that you haven't thought about yet? Or maybe there's no reason at all. Maybe the procrastination is because you didn't finish this, because of the things that happened in the past, right? Maybe there's not a good reason why you're putting something off, and maybe that's worth reflecting on. So let's finally look at the Three of Pentacles, and thank God it's in the upright. And actually, this makes the whole thing make more sense to me, because the Three of Pentacles, when it's in the upright position, is talking about collaboration and teamwork and learning, and then implementing the things that you've learned. And I feel like that's the perfect way to like tie this all together. Three of Pentacles, it suggests that if you're struggling with this kind of like lack of flow, lack of like intuitive, lack of like being able to feel like what you're telling yourself intuitively, if you're struggling with those sorts of things, it could be saying you need help. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, maybe there's a reason why the introspection isn't really working as well as it usually does right here. Maybe it's because you need other people, right? Like, we want to be checking in on people. Maybe it's because just as much as they need you, you need them too. You know, it's a card of sort of finding that sweet spot of coming together with a team rather than trying to do everything by yourself when you want to find success. yeah, I don't know, because I feel like, I don't know, is everybody following me? I feel like that actually like tied it all together, because I feel like a lot of these are cards of like trying to figure everything out by yourself, and this is just saying like, why? You don't have to be doing that. You know, other people exist, and they're probably totally willing to help you and collaborate with you. So that's it. That's what I got. I hope that you enjoyed this. Again, this was very different than what I usually do on this channel, and it will probably be the last time you'll ever see anything like this. But let me know if it was interesting. And if you have any other ideas for cool paper related sound things. I just love the sound of cards. And yeah, that's it. Have a great rest of your summer. And you'll see me again not talking. So, bye.